Hey guys, thanks for joining me again for another UX Teardown. My name is Kendra, and today we are going to be looking at a fairly popular clothing brand called Kith. And so we're just going to jump right into it. Again, we are not going over every single little thing that happens on the website. We're just looking at quick wins or some low-hanging fruit in order to improve websites from a user experience perspective. So one of the first things that we're going to look at, pretty shortly after I entered this site, I got a pop-up for, it looks like, a newsletter and loyalty program. So the timing of this was probably a little bit quick. So the pop-ups for newsletter signups, subscriptions, promo codes, all of that, very popular right now and can be a really good thing to do, but you want to be cognizant of the timing on it. So for me, that was a little quick. I think the best way probably to determine for your brand the timing on that is to probably do some A/B testing to determine who will sign up and who will click out of it. A lot of times when people get to a website, if something pops up at them too quickly, they'll just immediately click out of it because they're still trying to orient themselves to the page. And so it comes across as bothersome. So I would say that was probably a little bit quick. So that's a pretty big thing to consider if you do that on your site. Okay, so as soon as I land on this, so initial thoughts, good photography, really high quality pictures. So that's a huge plus, especially if you're going to do this really big hero images. Hero images are very popular and they can be very impactful, but if the quality of the photography is not good or if it's taking up too much space, it's not really necessarily functional or doing much good. It's not helpful. It's more distracting than anything if it's not utilized correctly. So initial thoughts after that is the brand here is, so white text over an image is hard to read for anybody, but it does usually create some accessibility issues. So like this is pretty hard to see. It's also really small. And then actually the main navigation on this page is over here in a hamburger menu, and it's off to the side and it's white and it really kind of blends in with everything else. So it's actually really, really hard to see. So research shows us that people rely pretty heavily on main navigation to orient themselves to a page and to kind of understand how things are categorized on a site. So when we have it over here and it's hard to access, if someone were to enter your site through the home page, it would be pretty difficult for them immediately to navigate through anything. I think that the hero image is probably taking up a little bit too much vertical space. But that might be more of a matter of preference. Okay, so again, we have white text on here, kind of hard to read, and it's hard to know actually like what this does. So is this clickable? Okay, so it goes to a campaign for a collection. Okay. So, and you do see the text down here, but with the size difference of the image and the text, sometimes like I was not immediately drawn to the text. So when I clicked on this picture, I actually didn't know where I was going. And so the thing about, user experience is that people obviously, they can figure things out as they spend more time on your site, but you want it to be obvious where things are going to go. So if someone was going to click on a picture or click on a link, you want them to understand where they're going so they're not surprised, because every time they're surprised when they land somewhere, if they have to reorient themselves or if they feel like it's a hassle, it causes friction and then they're more likely to just abandon your site. So again, really, really small text. It's actually not really clear either until I hover over this, that like what is clickable and what is not. So again, you want anything that's clickable, anything that's going to take you somewhere else to be obvious to someone. Okay, so let's keep going here. So same thing here, like really nice photography, fairly easy to identify what they're selling here. But again, very, very, very small text. It's white text, and kind of hard to know. Like the shop now button, so this would be like our call to action. It's pretty small and not obvious. So if I wanted from a consumer perspective, if I wanted to buy this, I'd actually have to look a little bit harder for it than I'd probably want to. Okay, so let's keep scrolling down here on the product page. Or not the products page, the home page. They've got some products displayed here. Okay. So on the hover state, they have a different product view that happens, which is cool. The thing that stands out to me actually about this that I would perceive to be problematic from a consumer perspective. So again, the photography is really good. It's nice that they show it with the person. Like research talks about that a lot. If you're selling apparel or accessories, having it displayed on a model is a good thing. We want that. But notice how when I'm hovering over this, no matter what picture, it shows me the sizes, but it actually eliminates my ability to view the description. So if you look over here at the other ones, I can see what they are and how much they are. But in this one, because I've hovered over it, I can only see sizes to quick add. So it's not until I move off of it that I can see it. So I get the intention behind being able to quick add to the cart, and that's a good thing. But you can do that in a way that doesn't take the viewing options away, because people want to be able to see the price of something before they're going to add it to the cart anyway. So they could see it at first, but as soon as they hover over it, that goes away. So that could be a point of improvement. Again, same thing here, like really good photography, but buttons are just really small and really not obvious that you can do it. So same thing here with the products. It changes the view so I can't see the information. Okay, so we've got like a fairly standard layout. So a lot of collections here displayed on the home page, and then okay. We've got an app. Featured content. Okay, so some blogs. Usually what we would like to see on a home page, at least to some degree, is a little bit of information like about the brand. And this is really just to explain to your potential customers like more about you, and your brand. So this is kind of one of those things where if you have a customer who's been with you for a long time, they're likely not going to look, and care that much about the About Us section. But the difficult thing with e-commerce is that you kind of have to find that happy medium between catering to returning customers and catering to new customers. And so if you want to establish trust with new customers, one of the best ways to do that is to tell them about yourself, let them see who you are, what your brand stands for, and then social proof to some degree is a good way to do that. And that could be something else here that I would maybe add to the homepage is some sort of social proof, whether it be like product reviews or pulling stuff from social. So, some good options there just to like increase the impact. All right, so let's go ahead and go. We'll just click on a product here. Probably doesn't really matter what it is. Okay, we'll do this dress. So we'll click into it. Look at the product page here. Okay. I don't know. Oh, got some pictures. Okay, so this is something that, okay, it's a shoulder strap. So I didn't really understand why this picture was there. So they've got some alternative pictures, which is good. They've got a picture of the dress on a model, which again, like research shows us that consumers really like because it helps them to visualize that. Color, sizing options. Okay, so what we have here, so they do have some descriptions, some details of the dress, which is great, but it's actually below some of this other stuff. So I actually think that I would probably switch that, because I actually have to scroll down past other products to find more information about the dress that I want to buy. Again, it's not one of those things that people can't figure out how to do it, but the idea of e-commerce and making sales is that we want to reduce friction, and we want to make it as easy as possible for people to find the information that they're looking for and to make a purchase. So even adding little things like this, where someone has to, if I want to find out like what's this made out of, or what's the sizing chart look like, I have to scroll down past other stuff. And I think people find that just kind of annoying. Not that they couldn't figure it out. It doesn't create that kind of friction, but again, it's just those extra little steps. So we've got a description, we've got details what it's made out of, size info. Okay. So this one does have sizing information, which is helpful. A lot of times what we see with apparel is that there will be sizing info or sizing charts on some products, but not on others, and that can be pretty confusing for people. Got information about shipping and returns. Okay, so I like that they have this statement like returns are accepted on this product. This is really helpful for people, because a lot of times what brands do, they'll make you link out to a different page or say like it might be able to be returned, but this makes it like very clear. Returns are accepted on this product. So returns are refunded to a gift card for future purchases. So at least they're being transparent about that. I think that the transparency is always a good thing. And they've got shop more down here. Okay. And let's look at this here. Okay, so yeah, same thing on this. Like we've got like other competing products before information about the current products, and that can be just a little bit confusing for people. So let's go ahead and add that to the cart and see what this looks like. Shipping and taxes calculated at checkout. Okay, so one of the things, and I feel like I talk about this in pretty much every video that I do because it's important. Shipping is one of those things that shipping charges tends to turn people off a little bit. I think this is just like, Amazon Prime kind of like ruining this for us, but people really like to know what shipping is going to cost, because a lot of times what happens is that people will add something to the cart and then they won't find out what shipping looks like until they're into the checkout process, and then they find out that it's way more than they want to pay, and so they end up abandoning the cart. And so it's not always possible, depending on like the product and what your shipping process looks like, it's not always possible to tell people earlier on what shipping is going to look like. But if you can do that, you should do that. So even if that means like, increasing your prices to account for the cost of shipping and then allowing for free shipping, or doing like a progress bar telling them how close they are to free shipping or something. It's just one of those things where if you can be as upfront about the information as possible, you should do that, because it does lead to less cart abandonment for people. Okay, so we've got some upsells here. Go to checkout. Let's see what this looks like. So it's nice they've got the customized, they've got their logo and all of that. So terms of service. Okay. So one of the other things I want to look at here is I like to look at FAQs, because these are pretty important, especially if people have a lot of questions about like returns and things like that. So FAQs are a really good way to give people the information that they're looking for, but it's also a really good way from a business perspective to reduce like customer service issues. Like if people can find what they're looking for on your website, they won't necessarily need to reach out with an inquiry. So they've got these broken down into sections, which can be helpful provided that they've categorized things in a way that people expect. So shipping and tracking, how much shipping. So then they have the questions phrased from the user perspective, which again is really good. Okay, so something interesting to note here is that they use a service, you can see it up here, Gorgeous, for this, which a lot of people do, which is okay. The issue that we run into with this is that it takes me like off the site. And so if I want to get back to where I was, I can hit the back button here. But if I try to just go like home, it brings me actually to the home page of their like support stuff, not their home page. I can't click on this. So unless I use the back button in my browser, I have to here go back there, and it takes me back to the home page. So I've actually like lost where I was. So you want to keep people on page as much as possible. So using services like that is fine, but just make sure that it's easy for people to get back to where they were at. Because to have to click back and then basically go back to the beginning of the website is not a great user experience, especially if I was already looking at a specific product listing. Okay, so let's see. I want to also look at... so I would imagine if their FAQs page does that, a lot of their support pages probably do that. Let's look at the About Us page. So ideally, this is, again, some information we want on the home page. So kind of the same thing as what we talked about on the home page. So the benefit of this is that, like, there's not this excessive amount of information, but the text is pretty small, so it's hard to read. The text blocks are bigger than we'd like to see. We want to chunk the text. Walls of text tend to be more burdensome for people to read. And it kind of lacks their branding and their personality. So one of the good things about this website is they have really good photography, and they've got like branding that's pretty consistent. But then when we go to pages like this, it's just not there. So that could be a point of improvement too. The interesting thing to note too is, so when we go to other pages of their site, the navigation menu switches. So now we've got like this top bar main navigation. Whereas when we're on the home page, it's actually in the hamburger menu. So I haven't seen that a lot, so that's kind of one of those things that may or may not be confusing to people. I don't know. That's interesting. It took me a little bit to catch on to that. I went to look for it on the side, and it wasn't there, so that was a little confusing. Okay. Let's see. So we've got some drop-down menus in the main navigation, which is good, especially if you have a lot of different products. The drop-downs can be really helpful. Okay, so here's something else though, from a user perspective. So I used the drop-down navigation to go to dresses, so it brings me to all of the dresses, which is great. I mean, again, really good photography, really clean layout. What we have up here, though, is these would, at first glance, appear to be filters. But they're not filters. They're actually completely different products. So filters is actually over here. And I can filter by, color, size, price, in stock. Great. But the filter's actually over here collapsed. These are actually totally different products. So again, at first glance, I thought that they were filters. This is usually where people put filters if they're going to have them like that. So there's a lot of research that talks about like putting like product categories or more popular filters like up top. And so that's what I thought they were. But these are actually completely different products, because I can go to like pants from here. So that probably could be changed to improve the experience. I think that's a little bit confusing to people, especially since you have the the drop down menus, but I think that placing this here where filters typically go is a little confusing. So I think that I would change that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I usually look at. So those are typically the things that I look at when I go. In fact, there was one more thing I wanted to see. Let's look and see. So they just have a lot of, some of their pages when I was looking at it too, they have a lot of products, which is okay, but it's when things are, when you have too many things on a page and they just continue to like load and load and load without the option to like load more. If someone is trying to like access the footer, it can take a super long time if they're after specific information. So that's just something to be aware of. Like, this isn't really a crazy amount of products, but that's something to consider, is making sure that like your footer is maybe accessible if you're on like an all products page and things just continue to load, either having them sorted up into pages or giving the option to load more so people can have access to the footer, because there's a lot of valuable information in the footer that people need, and so you don't want to make it so that people have a difficult time accessing that. The other good thing I wanted to point out was that I liked that they had their locations. So the thing that's confusing about what just happened there is when I hover, it has this drop down menu, which is like cool from an aesthetic standpoint, but it actually blocks the information that I'm trying to access. And so when we look at UX, we want to consider fun and fancy with function, right? So like this is cool, like it drops down, the pictures are really good, but like if it's getting in the way of something that I'm actually trying to do, then it impacts the function, which means that it's probably something to be revised. But I do like that they have physical locations, because that is something that helps people like trust a brand, like they know where to find them, they know how to locate them. So a lot of times in the e-commerce world, even if people have a brick and mortar store, that's not always like connected to their online presence, and people just, it helps to establish your brand as trustworthy if people know like where to find you. So that, I think, is all we're gonna look at today, but this seems like a pretty cool brand, some cute clothes, so go ahead and check them out, and we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.